Well, I trust that you enjoy the week, the weather. That's beautiful. Next week is going to be kind of the same kind of weather. I think there's some chance of rain on, I think, on Tuesday. But anyway, enjoy the beautiful sunshine. If you turn your Bibles with me to the first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 4, we are going to read verses 1 through 6. Chapter 4, 1 through 6. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? By the way, it's very interesting. Unfortunately, the way I like it better, the original language would say, verse 1, Now Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. In the Hebrew language, it would read, she bore a son, Cain, and said, I have acquired a man, the Lord. Not from, the Lord. Which means that she thought that Cain was the Savior of the world. God had promised, you will have, through you, the seed will come. And I don't know how long she waited for Cain to be born. Don't know. Bible doesn't say. But can you see the expectation of Adam and Eve? Could this be the Savior? And she bore a son, and she named it Cain, and said, I have acquired a man. The from is not in the original language. The Lord! Exclamation point. Unfortunately, the story does not end there. It goes with what happened to Abel in the hands of Cain. Today we're going to be looking at a powerful human emotion in our lives. Angry, miffed, huffy, offended, ticked off, grumpy, touchy, hurt, irritated, resentful, sore. All those part of a whole gamut of human emotion, to include sadness and joy, exuberance and peace, and the list goes on and on. Dozens and dozens of words that capture the range of human emotion that human beings can express, can feel and express. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands because I know the answer. One time or another, we've all been angry from time to time. Unresolved anger makes us unhappy and damages relationship and community. So let me ask you this. Is anger something positive or negative? You can talk to me. Can be either, can be both. It can be positive, it can be negative. When does anger can be something, a positive feeling? Being angry about sin, injustice. It is a powerful emotion that moves people to do something, and oftentimes very good. Anger has been the catalyst for bringing about a change in society, a change hopefully for the better. Anger also has a positive element. When we are angry, we are invited to become aware of what is causing that emotion. What are the triggering events? It can also be a negative emotion. We're angry, we want to get even. We're angry, we speak our mouth only to find out that, oops, should have been better not to open my mouth. The limbic system in the brain takes over the frontal cortex, where we make the executive decision, the judgment, and the emotion tend to overpower. Emotions can be good and bad. I thank God that God gave us emotion, the capacity to feel and to express our emotions. Like if we are trapped, like we are in a house, a fire, the emotion take over. We don't say, well, let me see, is this for real? Do I have the facts? Let me find out. Let me do an inquiry. I want to make a rational decision. No. The emotional system takes over and we get out of the house, fly or fight kind of thing. So thank God for emotions, that we can have them and hopefully we can express them in a positive manner. What is anger? Like I said, it's one of those basic emotions, such as getting mad, sad, glad, afraid, ashamed. But emotions are the symptoms by which we begin to find out something about us. Anger is like the light that comes on in the engine, dashboard, that tells us we need to pay attention to something. Something is going on. It tells us something going on with the car. It tells us something going on within ourselves that requires our attention. Years ago, a friend of mine used to drive a Volkswagen Beetle. The old car did not have the light, the pressure light that would come on, like check engine light. So he decided to ignore it. He kept driving. No big deal. Who cares what that is? Well, yeah, he cared what that is, because it didn't take him too long to find out that he had damaged the engine. It overheated, and it cost him a lot of money only because he disregarded that signal that it was saying to him, pay attention, something's going on, you cannot ignore it. So, why do we get angry? I found a good explanation. Anger comes from believing your rights have been deliberately violated. I'll repeat it. Anger comes from believing your rights have been deliberately violated. First word, believing. You have to be aware. You have to be cognizant. You have to be aware that some violation had taken place. What is it? About your rights. When we think about rights, we think about the based on laws such as the Ten Commandments, federal law, state law, local ordinances, a contract of some sort. But it has to be delivered. In other words, it has been intentionally done, not by ignorance, by purposely done, showing disrespect rather than ignorance. And so we have the story of Cain. Cain got angry. Why was he angry? Did Abel violate his right? No, really. That would be out of character with him. Did God violate Cain's right? Of course not. That would not be right. So, 1 John chapter 3, verse 12 says, we should love one another, not as Cain, who was of the wicked one and murdered his brother. And he goes on to say, and why did he murder him? Because his works were evil and his brothers righteous. Wow. It says that Abel did not violate Cain's right. And the whole thing turned out to be it was Cain's fault. But we have a clue. Cain was of the wicked one. Now, who is the wicked one? And what is his character? The Apostle John wrote in his gospel, John 8:44, you are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it. So somehow Cain became controlled, possessed by Satan himself. Sister White says in Testimony for the Church, Volume 5, page 310, through Christ you may and should be happy and should acquire habits of self-control. Even your thoughts must be brought into subjection to the will of God, and your feelings under the control of reason and religion. Your imagination was not given you to be allowed to run riot and have its own way without any effort at restraint or discipline. If your thoughts are wrong, the feelings will be wrong. An important principle. Whatever feelings we have, and particularly in the area of negative feelings, is an expression of thoughts. In other words, we would not have those kind of feelings if something had not happened before that, which is thought. Thoughts will create feelings. So if I'm happen to be having wrongful feelings, negative feelings, it is incumbent upon me to ask myself the question, what is triggering this? What is going on within me that is causing me to feel this way? Number one. Number two, are these thoughts that come into me correct or incorrect? Justified or unjustified? Is it possible that we can change our thoughts, and in changing our thoughts, our feelings will change? And I would suggest to you that that is the case. Somebody might say, well, I cannot control it. Yes, you cannot control certain things. There's a lot of things that we cannot control. I like the way years ago I attended a seminar, and the specialist said, we're talking about stress. People say, oh, my son makes me stressful. Or the job is so stressful. This COVID thing, it stresses me out to no end. My boss, and the list goes on. In and of themselves, those things that I mentioned do not give you stress. It's interpretation of those thoughts that will give us stress. Martin Luther, the famous Middle Ages theologian, seminal figure of the Reformation, said, you cannot keep birds from flying over your head. Will you agree with that? Is it something you can do? No, you cannot keep birds flying over your head, but you can keep them from building a nest in your hair. That we can control. That we can do something about it. Birds flying above, hundreds of feet or dozens of feet above, there's nothing we can do. Yeah, we can run for cover. They say when geese take over flight, watch out. Watch out, because they leave a souvenir. They may leave a souvenir on top of your head or on your clothes. But there's something that we must do that we can control. I recall a story of a woman who was sitting at the airport waiting to board the airplane, and who bought a bag of cookies, sat down to wait. It wasn't too long before there was another lady who sat near her, and she to her surprise and amazement, she opened the bag of cookies and began to eat one cookie and another one and another one. In fact, ate the whole bag of cookies to this lady was annoyed. The stupidity of this lady to grab into her bag and eat her cookies. The nerve, she said. How could she ever be so rude? They finally, both of them boarded the airplane and she settled in, only to discover that she had in their purse an unopened bag of cookies. It was not her bag. It was the other person's bag, and she had allowed that thought and those feelings so overpowered her that she was ruining her day. You know, thoughts, if the thoughts are wrong, the feelings will be wrong. You know, anger doesn't come to us just because. Anger comes to us because the way we have chosen to interpret our beliefs about the reality we are facing. Our beliefs may be misbeliefs based on a lie. And I wonder, what were Cain's misbelief about his right that made him so angry that caused him eventually to become, to taking his brother's life? He was angry with God because he believed that he had the right to substitute God's way of offering to him. And even though God has spelled out the prescribed offering, God did not respect that assumed right. And so he's angry with God. If he's angry with God, you may ask, why did he have to kill his brother? Blame it to God. Get angry with God. Talk to him. Yell at him. Whatever you do. Why his brother? Well, Cain was angry with Abel because as the firstborn, Cain believed that he had the right to tell his younger brother Abel what to do. But Abel did not follow Cain in rebellion. He had a high respect for God. His heart was with God, and he followed his instruction. And that he respected the assumed leadership that Cain had taken upon himself. Abel pleaded with Cain to bring the prescribed offering to Cain. Don't tell me what to do, brother. I know better. I have my rights. And so when diagnosing anger, we need to consider the possibility about our misbeliefs and about our rights. Just because we are angry doesn't mean that someone necessarily has done us wrong. It's all about how we interpret those thoughts that come to mind, those beliefs that we have come to cultivate. You know, most of the anger and resentment in your life has not been people violating your actual rights, but rather your misbeliefs about your rights. And where do the misbeliefs, erroneous beliefs come from? The Bible says it comes from the devil, the father of all lies. You know, you look at the media, the advertisement. You deserve a break today, it goes. You deserve to drive this car. You deserve to say that you have a right. No, I don't have that right. I don't have that right. How many Disney movies have the message, follow your heart? You have a right to do whatever you want. Just like Cain felt about God and about his brother. Do what you feel. We are reminded by the prophet of old, Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 9, the heart is deceitful about all things and desperately wicked, not just wicked, desperately wicked. Who can know it? You know, so many times we are capable of deceiving ourselves, and we can do the devil's job for him. We tell ourselves lies, then we believe them because we trust the source. What I need is the way, the truth, and the life to show me the truth I need the word of God to set me straight. Is it any wonder that Paul wrote in Romans chapter 12, verse 3, "For I say, through the grace given to me, to everyone who is among you, not think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, as God has dealt to each one a measure of faith." What we need to do is think of ourselves, not what we think about us, what others tell us, but what God thinks about me. We imagine that we have more rights than others. And because people do not agree with the way we think and the way we think they ought to think, we get angry. What can we do when we get angry? What can we do with any other emotion that seemingly tends to control us? You know, if you're having a painful emotion like anger, you cannot resolve on your own. You can't. We need help. Help from somebody who knows us best or better than us, starting with God. And perhaps checking our own perception of the reality with a trusted friend, someone who can be our mirror, as it were, and tell us, am I really feeling that way? How do you see it? And have a perception check. Interesting verse, chapter 4, verse 6 of Genesis. "So the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted?" In the original language, it said, "Will I can see your face, your countenance has fallen. If you do well, you will be," and it's not a question mark in the Hebrew, "you will be lifted up. Your countenance will be lifted up." But it says, "And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desires is for you, but you should rule over it." The picture in the original language is Cain is being dominated, controlled, overpowered by his own allowance, to be so angry against his brother. And God said, Cain, watch out. Sin, it says in verse 6, lies at the door. In the original language, is crouching at the door, ready to spring forward. The picture is that of a wild animal, a predator, who is hiding behind the bush, all muscle tense, ready in a position to attack, ready as he sees the prey going by, spring forward and clashes on the victim. That's what sin does. But it says, "And the desires is for you." I like the way the better translation, instead of saying you should rule it, you should master it, control it. That means I have a personal responsibility. I have to own my feelings. I cannot go around and live in this world saying, that's my dad's fault, that was my mother's fault, look at the environment in which I grew up. And we can go down the list. I was mistreated, I was misjudged, they did not raise me well, the teacher that did whatever to me, they don't understand me, they ignored me, they bypassed me for promotion, my husband was unfaithful, my children left the faith, they never listened to me. And we can go on and blaming the whole world. We need to assume, we need to take responsibility, because whatever has happened to us, whatever the triggers have been, I have chosen to interpret in a way that is causing me to be angry. That's my responsibility. You know, God had not accepted his offering, or because he had accepted Abel's, Cain was angry and became depressed. And God telling him very clearly here, if you change your ways, if you change the way you are choosing to act upon, if you don't allow sin to control your life, that strong emotion, all-powerful emotion, indeed, your countenance will be lifted up. Some Bible will say will be accepted. But if it does not change, sin is pictured as an animal crouched just outside the door of his heart, awaiting the bidding of his master to attack, springing into action. You know, what God is describing to Cain and to all of us is the sin's persistent nearness. It is always ready to extend its dominance by increasing iniquity. Sin strives to pile iniquity upon iniquity, even as one lies produces another to keep the facade of deception from crumbling. What a wonderful encounter. Some had considered this text as the first ever counseling session. God comes to Cain and said, Cain, first of all, be aware of your feeling. Why are you angry? It's not a condemnation from God. It's an invitation to reflect. Think about what triggered this event. Think what's going on within yourself that causes you to be so angry. And the judgment you're making about by which you feel you need to be angry, is it really accurate? Or is it just a perception that you have chosen to adopt and embrace? God is always the initiator. Remember, God came to Cain's father and mother and said, where are you? He was not seeking information for location. It was an invitation to draw them out and begin to have a conversation, a redemptive conversation. Why are you angry? And then it says, and why has your countenance fallen? Why are you so depressed that even I can look at your face and I can tell what you have allowed this angry emotion to do to you? But then it gives the remedy. It says, if you do well, you will be accepted. This is not a mortal sin. But sin is lying at the door. And so Cain is to rule over sin, which is greedily desire him, by giving up his wrath, not indeed that sin may cease to lurk for him, but that the lurking evil foe may obtain no entrance into Cain's heart. I think it's good for us to follow God's examples in the advice that he gave. Think about this. What counsel did Cain get? What did he say? Don't bottle up your feelings. Express it. Desensitize yourself to your anger triggers. If you do well, Cain, you will be accepted. Your countenance will be lifted up. There will be a change in your life. But if you do not do well, you will become the victim of a powerful emotion that is eating you inside. But guess what? You master it. You can master it. You can rule it. You can bring it under control. You see, the root issue with Cain was disobedience to God. He rebelled. And that's why God gave him that counsel. Myself, my friends and brothers and sisters, listen to yourself, your self-talk. Look for the words, I ought, I must, I should. That is often how we express our quote-unquote rights. God should accept my offering of vegetables, Cain said. I am claiming the right of substitution. That's what he was saying. When he said to himself, Abel mustn't tell me what to do. What Cain was saying, I'm claiming the right to leadership of my younger brother. I need to make him do what I think is right. Because of erroneous thoughts, led Cain, to act against his brother. I'm wondering, are we claiming a legitimate right? If not, then we need to identify the lie. We need to drag it out of our subconscious into the cold light of day. It is a lie that we have the right to substitute the offering that God has prescribed. That's what it applied to Cain. It is a lie that I have the right to tell my brother what they need to do. I can advise them. I cannot force upon them. So I think this step is very crucial because we are informing our brain what our rights are and what we should do. And at interpreting our thoughts, it will produce a different set of feelings. You know, God, after all, is the only one who has the right on my life. Cain should have said, my brother Abel is his own person, answerable to God. And what he's telling me, it might be a reflection that he really cares about me. The many times that he came and told me, brother, what you are doing, offering, I know you might be in good intention, but it's not according to God's will. Abel is showing me that he cares about me. That's why he's pleading with me. Why is it that I want to do what I want to do? Why is it that I'm having a hard time following what God is asking me to do? So we tell ourselves things that may not be true, like, it's going to be awful. Well, how do we know? I cannot stand it. Those are thoughts that are producing feelings. I know what she's thinking. No, you don't. But we say that because there's some thought mechanism taking place that will create a set of emotions. They always do it that. You know, I've learned training my brain not to say always and never, because when we say always and never, we always get in trouble. Always get in trouble. Watch out for those words. Suppose someone has violated your real rights. What do you do then? Well, there's a biblical prescription given in the Bible in Matthew 18:15. Moreover, if your brother sin against you, go and tell him his fault between you and Facebook and Instagram and the social media. Go as far and wide as you can. No, it doesn't say that. Go between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother. You don't have to demand your rights. Proverbs 11:19 said, the discretion of a man makes him slow to anger, and his glory is to overlook a transgression. Putting somebody else first. Friends, we live at a time when we are so prone to exercise, these are my rights. Let's be careful. Let's be careful. That means that we need to think of others first. Ministry of Healing, page 485 says, we cannot afford to let our spirits chafe over any real or supposed wrong done to ourselves. Self is the enemy that we need to fear the most. We should not allow our feelings to be easily wounded. We are to live, not to guard our feelings or our reputation, but to save souls. As we become interested in the salvation of souls, we cease to mind the little differences that so often arise in our association with each other. Now notice that. As we become interested in the salvation of souls, we cease to mind the little differences that so often arise in our association with each other. Whatever others may think of us or do to us, it needs not disturb our oneness with Christ, the fellowship